Toshio Kajiwara, aka Bing, is an enigmatic DJ and sound artist who is associated with various New York underground music scenes from the 1990s up to the early 2000s. Toshio operates in various fields such as free improvisation, experimental theater, and DJing. And perhaps his mystique comes from the fact that artists and audience members in these communities don't always overlap. Another factor is that despite his extensive resume as a musician, event organizer, and label owner, Toshio hardly has any releases of his own. When asked why he doesn't release his own music, he pointed to all the records around him and said, "I don't need to add to all of this." Yet, underneath Toshio's unassuming and gentle character, there's an unparalleled passion towards vinyl and audio culture that separates him from others. Toshio worked for years at New York's legendary record store A1 Records and was known for uncovering the most obscure releases that people didn't even know existed. He currently lives in Kyoto, where he has his own record shop called Hitozoku, located in the bustling part of town. He is also the founder of ANTIBODIES Collective, together with his partner and choreographer Yoko Higashino. With 60-plus members living in different areas of Japan, they create spectacular multi-sensory performances that combine music, dance, theater, and costume design. In addition to these activities, Toshio continues to play experimental turntable sets and DJs in clubs while pursuing a sustainable lifestyle on his farm outside of the city of Kyoto.
80年代の終わりぐらいにロンドンにいて、そこからニューヨークに引っ越したんだけど、それが
After living in London in the late 1980s, Toshio moved to New York at the end of 1990. He started to hang out at the experimental art events that were happening in the warehouses in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. It was at one of these art events that he made his first experimental work, which he describes as a sound installation with multiple turntables and looping records. At these events, he also met like-minded musicians like DJ Spooky, DJ Olive, and Raz Mesinai, and started to collaborate and DJ together.
本当にこう普通にマットプロフェッサーとかそういうダブをかけつつシュトックハウゼンこっちでかけるみたいな。でそれが結構当時新しくてその感じが。
They were all unique DJs, mixing Mad Professor dubs with electronic music compositions by Stockhausen. Their unique style of DJing and their eclectic taste would later be broadly known as ambient. Around this time, Toshio and DJ Olive started their own label, Phenomena Audio Arts and Multiples, which was dedicated to releasing their unique vinyl records that were meant for turntable performances. They called these records vinyl scores. Throughout the mid to late 1990s, Toshio continued to develop his unique style of turntablism, collaborating with free improvisers and other turntablists like Christian Markley, Mariana Rosenfeld, and Eric M. These collaborations often happened at Toshio and Olive's weekly experimental music events that were held in the basement of John Zorn's venue Tonic, located in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. As a turntablist, Toshio is unique in his instrumental setup and his choice of records. Instead of a standard setup of turntables and a mixer, Toshio would have an array of devices.
それで何やってたかを説明するのに、これが当時やってたやつなんですけど、なんかこういうの作って。
The most unique were his self-made pickup cartridges, which he started using around 1996. These intricately crafted cartridges housed multiple styluses in various configurations. For example, 4 styluses are lined up vertically, with the intention to follow the same groove of the record. This would result in a tape delay-like effect. Another would be 3 styluses lined up horizontally to play 3 different grooves of the same record.
ここのコネクションですごいロスがあるのが分かって、でこれを友達のジュエラーの友達にね、これをステアリングシルバーでチキンフィーって呼んでた。
On these cartridges, each stylus's angle could be adjusted to ensure that they followed the desired groove or create loops by skipping. Toshio had a jeweler to create the delicate connectors, which needed to pass the sounds to the mixer without weakening the signal. In combination with his cartridges, Toshio would use outdated equipment, such as the Gemini Flash Former or the Nord Micromodular Synth. He likes to use obsolete devices for their character and sound, which he says reflects their internal logic and circuitry. Another aspect that separates Toshio's turntable performances from other turntablists, like Christian Marclay or Otomo Yoshihide, are the records that he chooses to use.
そうだからそこがね、僕マークレーとかと多分大友さんともそこが違う。
Toshio points out that while Marclay and Otomo are more focused on the playing of turntable as an instrument, he is more interested in working with the actual sounds that are engraved on the record. Such an example would be how he works with audio letters, or sometimes called phonopost. These were one-off records recorded by amateurs that contained intimate voice messages that were sent to family members and loved ones.
Adenor, me encuentro aquí en Nueva York, pero muy contento, pero como siempre pensando mucho en ti. Estas son unas pocas palabras.
The sound quality of these records are poor, but for Toshio, the faint voices buried under the textual noise of vinyl becomes rich sonic material to work with. His obsession for obscure records comes from being in the business of buying and selling records for over 30 years. He remembers how the first record shop that he worked for had about 1 million records in their warehouse, although a lot of these were considered to be garbage. People like Marclay would call Toshio up and ask for cheap records to use in their artwork. However, for Toshio, working in a record shop was not just about having access to rare records. As he learned the ropes of the business while still studying photography in art school, he started to realize that records were a window into personal lives. When people contacted the shop to sell their records, it often meant that they were going through some kind of life-changing events, like family members passing away or economic hardship. Toshio would visit homes all over the city to pick up records from these people. This would give him a glimpse into the lives of the diverse communities living in New York that rarely interacted with each other. Being interested in photojournalism, this aspect of the job got Toshio completely hooked.
突き詰めていったら、結局これよりもすごいのがやっぱカセットテープがすごい。
Toshio says after returning to Japan, now he digs for used cassette tapes because he finds the most interesting sounds left on them by regular people and amateur musicians. And these are cheap, sold for almost nothing in the bins at recycle shops.
使用済みテープの中にそういうのがあるっていうのに気づいて、それでこう使用済みテープをさ。
What is most intriguing about Toshio's tireless quest for obscure recordings is that what he finds doesn't just sit on a shelf. They are later transformed into ghostly turntable soundscapes, or mixed with tribal rhythms that sends the dance floor into a frenzy. Toshio points out that the younger generation doesn't realize that they are forced to consume music that only exists in a specific media format. In this sense, Toshio's performances and his shop are doorways to a sonic world that is becoming increasingly unattainable in today's culture.